Welcome to Phoenix Masonry Live.
A show about Masonic Museum artifacts,
Interviews,
Masonic history.
and much more.
I am Frederick L. Milliken, Executive Director of Phoenix Masonry.
And I am Mason Pratt, Webmaster for Phoenix Masonry.
And we are here to
Celebrate.
our Freemasonry. And that's what we do here at Phoenix Masonry. We celebrate our Freemasonry. And today's show, we are celebrating the legacy that Worshipful Fran Foster left us. And our new co-host on Phoenix Masonry Live. Folks, I would like to introduce you to our new co-host for a while, Mason Pratt. Elena Lamas is on sabbatical and will be back with us at a later time. Mason, tell us about your civilian career.
Well, I'm originally from Bradenton, Florida. I attended Florida Southern College in Lakeland, and I worked for several years in the banking industry before I decided to attend law school in Lansing, Michigan, where I graduated with a Juris Doctorate degree. I've worked for the last 30 years in the legal field, various government agencies, and the computer industry. I now live in the suburb of Portland, Maine, with my wife, Donna, and our long-haired dachshund, Liza Jane.
Please tell us about your Masonic career.
I've been a Freemason for over 40 years, being a member during that time in different lodges in Florida, Washington, D.C., New Hampshire, Vermont, and now currently in Maine. I served as master twice of my Blue Lodge in Vermont and once as the master of the Vermont Lodge of Research. I'm also a member of the Scottish and the York Rite bodies.
Mason is the author of the fraternal novel Finding El Dorado, and a sequel is on the way. Tell us a bit about this book, Mason.
Sure. It is an allegorical story of self-growth and mentorship, and combined with what I think is a wonderful mixture of a little fantasy, travel, history, and a revealed secret society. It is originally part of an ancient tale that gives a deeper understanding as to the nature of fraternal values and callings.
On today's show, we will be broadcasting 2 videos from the Fran Foster Masonic Cable TV show of the 90s titled What It Means to Be a Mason.
Our first video is about the Friend to Friend Masonic Civil War Memorial in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Fran Foster, Master of Pawtucket Lodge here in East Bridgewater. With me tonight is Fred Milliken, past Master of Plymouth Lodge in Plymouth. Fred?
We're going to see quite a picture this evening, Fran, and for the general public, I think it's going to be most illuminating because it is a Civil War picture, but I think that when we talk about brotherly love and affection, I think the people out there really don't have a good concept of what we're talking about or how really deep it goes.
Right. This tape illustrates why the Masonic Memorial at Gettysburg came into being and how it was made. It is put out by the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania. It's quite a tape.
It is a Civil War drama, and I understand we were talking earlier about crossing back and forth in the lines, and I wish you would make a comment about that.
Oh, yes. Many a night when the fires were low, the men from both sides, Confederate and Union alike, would put down their weapons and go and have a Masonic Lodge meeting in peace and harmony. And then the next morning they would get up and go back to shooting at each other, as if the peace never started, or the war never ended.
Friend to friend, brotherly love and affection. Why don't we see what it's all about?
Sure.
are kind. But even in the mightiest battle, there are moments when the bonds of brotherhood are stronger than the power of the sword. It was the third day of battle at Gettysburg. On this scorching summer day, the fate of a nation would be determined. The songs of birds had long been hushed by the roar of cannons, and the green Pennsylvania countryside lay blanketed in blue and gray. On opposite sides of these once gentle hills, two men steadily advanced toward each other. Years before, when life seemed so much simpler, Lewis A. Armistead and Winfield Scott Hancock had been friends. West Point graduates, they had tasted battle together for the first time during the Mexican War. But like so many other friends and so many brothers, Hancock and Armistead had bid sad farewell as the Civil War tore the bonds that held our nation together, and each man followed the call of his conscience. The sun blazed high overhead on this third day of July, 1863, as the two friends rushed steadily onward. Now generals, both men would play crucial roles in the outcome of this pivotal battle. By 2 o'clock, the thunderous cannonade had stopped, and 12,000 Confederate troops rallied for what would become the most massive charge in the history of our country. Pickett's charge had begun. With the steely determination of men who are hungry for victory and who long for home, the Confederate troops headed across the open fields. Atop Cemetery Ridge, General Hancock and his men watched in silence as a majestic wave of gray pushed steadily toward them. All was quiet on the battlefield. Then, as the Confederate lines grew closer, the Union guns exploded in a torrential burst of fire. Volley after volley, the Confederate lines dissolved, reformed, and pushed forward, charging toward the stone wall that divided the rival armies. On the other side of the wall, General Hancock and his men were determined to defend the territory courageously protected by the Union during 2 days of savage fighting. Rallying his men forward, General Armistead was equally determined to wrest away the Union's advantage. As the Confederate lines gave way to the fury of the Union cannons, Armistead rushed over the wall with a force of only 150 men. At the height of the struggle, Armistead was mortally wounded by a Union sharpshooter. As he lay dying in enemy territory, Armistead called out a sign of distress, which was heard by men of the 72nd Pennsylvania. Recognizing a fellow Freemason in need, the Union soldiers risked their lives to carry the Confederate general to safety. Moved by his suffering, a Union captain by the name of Henry Bingham offered Armistead his assistance. In a letter to General Hancock, Bingham describes his brief encounter with the general's friend.
I saw Armistead first at the high point of the enemy's repulse. Observing the great suffering the prisoner was in, I dismounted from my horse and inquired of the prisoner his name. He replied, General Armistead of the Confederate Army. Observing that his suffering was very great, I said to him, General, I'm Captain Bingham of General Hancock's staff, and if you have anything valuable in your possession which you desire taken care of, I will take care of it for you. He then asked if it was General Winfield Scott Hancock. And upon my replying in the affirmative, he informed me that you were an old and valued friend of his, and that he desired me to say to you, "Tell General Hancock from me that I have done him and done you all an injury which I shall regret, or repent, I forget the exact word, the longest day I live."
Today, as the wind on the Gettysburg Hills whispers the goodbyes of the men who once fought and died here, tall standing memorials pay tribute to their bravery. One memorial reaches deep into the soul of our country, honoring a special kind of courage. Recalling the compassion shown to Louis Armistead by his Union brother and the bonds of friendship that forever united him to his friend, Winfield Scott Hancock, the Friend to Friend Masonic Memorial Monument commemorates the many acts of friendship and compassion that have taken place in the midst of battle throughout our nation's history. Conceived and developed by the Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Pennsylvania, the memorial is unique in that it is the first effort of its kind between the National Park Service and any organization.
The National Park Service was approached about a year ago by the Masons with an offer to erect a monument on the battlefield to honor Masons who fought in the Civil War. After some discussion, we agreed on a location, namely the cemetery annex. After some more discussions, the Masons not only agreed to erect a monument, but to develop the annex as planned for by the National Park Service some time ago. This is important to the National Park Service because funding had never been available to the National Park Service to do the development. Therefore, their offer was graciously accepted.
In an effort that would span several years and countless hours of planning and negotiations with the National Park Service, more than 170,000 Pennsylvania Freemasons joined forces to contribute to the development of the monument, its stately viewing plaza, and the needed enhancements to the Gettysburg National Cemetery Annex. For the Masonic Fraternity of Pennsylvania, the Friend to Friend Masonic Memorial provides a lasting symbol, honoring our nation's war dead while epitomizing the very essence of Freemasonry.
From the very beginning, the Fraternity of Free and Accepted Masons has been built on the principles of brotherhood, of literally reaching out to others in a spirit of compassion. The Friend to Friend Masonic Memorial symbolizes these principles and recognizes the many historical acts of love and compassion that occurred in this very difficult period in our country's history. The memorial is also meant to honor all the Freemasons who died during the Civil War, as well as those who have fought and defended our country in all subsequent wars and conflicts.
The idea to erect a Masonic monument at Gettysburg was initially conceived by a Pennsylvania jeweler by the name of Sheldon Munn. A Freemason and battlefield tour guide at Gettysburg, Munn had done extensive research on the bonds of friendship which existed between Masons of the Union and of the Confederacy.
There are many monuments here at Gettysburg, magnificent memorials that honor remarkable courage and bravery. But there are no monuments, really, to honor the bonds of friendship and brotherhood which existed between the men of the blue and the gray. Somehow these bonds endured in the midst of this very bitter struggle. As a Freemason, I felt it was important for future generations to see a memorial here at Gettysburg, honoring Masonic friendship and brotherhood.
Initially, as Munn and fellow Freemason Dr. John Schwartz sought to gain support for the memorial, they faced the usual battery of skeptics who felt the odds against the project were far too great for it to be taken seriously. But the men persisted with their dream and eventually found supporters who shared both their vision and their enthusiasm for the project.
I did not expect to be involved in a project that looked originally very easy to build a monument, to secure permission and clearance, to have a small monument done, knowing there are 1,300 monuments existing presently on the battlefield. However, as ours grew into a memorial, it became both exciting, it became very complex, and the obstacles that we had to encounter and overcome became very challenging and very time-consuming, however, very, very satisfying.
One of the greatest challenges the group was to face in the project's planning stages was securing the approval of the National Park Service.
Through the efforts of Congressman and Brother William S. Broomfield of Michigan and his administrative assistant, Miss Helen Lomax, we were able to achieve through the National Park Service their final approval for the monument.
A number of sites were considered for the memorial. The site which was finally selected was first suggested by Mr. Jose Cisneros, superintendent of the Gettysburg National Military Park. At the front center flagpole location of the Military Cemetery Annex, adjacent to the Gettysburg National Cemetery, the annex site includes veterans of all our country's wars. For the fraternity, this proved to be the ideal site for the location of the Friend-to-Friend Masonic Memorial Monument.
I feel the annex site is one of the most appropriate sites that could have been selected for the Masonic Memorial. The cemetery is part of our hallowed ground at Gettysburg and is a burial site for our soldiers and veterans who have fought in all of our wars since the Civil War. The monument depicts bonds of compassion and brotherhood, which have been such an integral part of all of our fighting forces in all of our conflicts. And I think the site is one of the best ones that could possibly have been selected for this monument.
The original concept proposed by the fraternity for the memorial sculpture portrayed life-size bronze figures of the two friends, Union General Winfield Scott Hancock and Confederate General Lewis A. Armistead, shaking hands. According to park historians, this concept stood little chance of approval in Washington because it could not be considered an accurate representation of an historic event.
Armistead and Hancock had been friends before the Civil War, but they never actually met on the battlefield at Gettysburg. So any memorial portraying the two men shaking hands couldn't really be considered historically accurate. However, there was a documented incident involving Captain Henry Bingham assisting General Armistead during Pickett's charge. Since they were both Masons, I suggested that we use this incident as the basis for the proposed sculpture. This concept would then stand a better chance for approval in our Washington office.
Following the park historian's suggestion, the Masons commissioned noted military sculptor Ron Tunison to create a bronze monument portraying the Union captain rendering assistance to the Confederate General Lewis Armistead. A passionate art historian and Civil War expert, Tunison delved eagerly into the historical research in order to ensure the accuracy of each detail.
With military history and military art, I really feel, aside from just creating an incredible piece of art, you have kind of an obligation if you're creating a scene out of the past, like Civil War, like what I'm doing here with Armistead and Bingham, to the best of what's available, research and get these pieces as historically accurate as possible. And I personally feel that it's a very important thing because you're portraying something out of history.
As Tunison explored the details that would transform the Friend-to-Friend Memorial into a vivid historical portrait, he sought a deeper understanding of the bonds which had brought these men together on the Gettysburg battlefield.
There was a great brotherhood between Freemasons during the Civil War, even though they were on opposing sides, like brother against brother. And that was one of those things that I wanted to try to create, that tenderness. I mean, here are two enemies that just moments earlier were trying to kill each other. Now that particular aspect of the battle is over, and now they're helping each other out. And that's one of those powerful things that has always fascinated me about the Civil War period.
From its very beginnings, reaching out to others in the spirit of brotherhood has been the cornerstone of the Masonic philosophy. There are many romantic theories and legends regarding the origins of Freemasonry. Some trace the birth of Freemasonry to the building of King Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem. Others speculate that the craft dates back to the building of the Great Pyramids of Egypt, while others believe that the Masonic Brotherhood evolved from the Knights Templar, an order of soldiers sent to protect pilgrims making their way during the Crusades. Most Masonic historians, however, trace the origins of modern Freemasonry to the master craftsmen who built the great cathedrals of medieval England. Fiercely proud of skills handed down from generation to generation, these master stonemasons carefully guarded the techniques of their trade in order to avoid crude imitations by unskilled workers, and to ensure that these great cathedrals would be true reflections of their own spiritual faith and inspiration. What we know today as Freemasonry most probably had its beginnings in the trade associations for stoneworkers in Great Britain. In the 17th century, as the construction of the great cathedrals slowly came to an end, these lodges of stonemasons began accepting speculative member masons who did not practice the trade. At a time of political and religious intolerance in British history, the lodges provided an environment where men could exchange ideas freely. Organized Freemasonry begins in the year 1717, when 4 London lodges joined together to form the premier Grand Lodge of England. As time went by, Freemasonry evolved into a brotherhood of men who shared a common belief in a supreme being, who were dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge through the study of the arts and sciences, and who practiced a philosophy of goodwill towards one's fellow man. It is ideals such as these that have attracted some of the world's greatest minds to the Masonic fraternity. Thinkers such as Voltaire, literary figures and renowned composers such as Sir Walter Scott and Franz Joseph Haydn, as well as diversely talented men who have influenced the course of history. 13 signers of America's Constitution were Freemasons, as well as 14 presidents. For over 2 centuries, Freemasons, despite their various backgrounds, have all shared a common philosophy. This philosophy was perhaps best captured by George Washington when he wrote of the bonds which unite the Masonic fraternity.
I conceive them to be founded in benevolence and to be exercised only for the good of mankind.
Just as the Masons of old passed their skills from man to man, generation to generation, the Masons of today share their time and their talents with those in need. Today, Freemasons across the country contribute over $2 million every day in support of a wide range of charities and medical research efforts, with each Masonic family championing its own charitable cause. Perhaps the most widely recognized of the Masonic charities are the Shriners Children's Hospitals. Located throughout North America, the 22 Shriners Hospitals treat thousands of crippled children and burn victims each year, totally without charge. Another nationally recognized Masonic charity, the Knights Templar Eye Foundation, provides access to eye surgery, hospitalization, and medical care to those unable to afford such treatment. Supported by York Rite Masons, who are Knights Templar, the foundation also provides grants for eye research. To aid in the battle against muscular dystrophy, Masons who belong to the Tall Cedars of Lebanon raise over $500,000 each year to help conquer this crippling disease, while Scottish Rite Masons direct more than $1 million annually toward research into the causes of schizophrenia, a mental illness affecting millions. In addition to these nationally recognized efforts, Masonic lodges throughout the country also demonstrate their commitment to the Masonic principles of brotherhood and compassion. Through the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, its Blue Lodges, and the families of Freemasonry, Pennsylvania Masons support and administer a variety of charitable programs. On 1,400 acres of rich Pennsylvania farmland, the Masonic homes in Elizabethtown provide a dynamic residential community for elderly Freemasons, their wives, and widows. In this peaceful setting, the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania meets the varied needs of its residents, providing skilled nursing and rehabilitative services, help with daily living activities, and friendly companionship.
I've been living here a year and a half, and I love it. The care is great. The food is fantastic. The surroundings are beautiful. So what more could anyone really ask for?
At the Children's Home in Elizabethtown, children whose families cannot provide them with adequate supervision and guidance receive the care, support, and education they need to cope with their uncertain world. Dedication and commitment to youth have always been part of the Masonic mission. Through the Pennsylvania Youth Foundation at Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania Freemasons offer tomorrow's leaders a range of educational programs to help build better citizens.
As Masons, we believe that education is one of the best legacies that we can leave our children and the children of our community. This is what we strive for in all of our youth programs.
Doing the best for our children often means grappling with difficult issues. Through a program of grant assistance and teacher training, the Pennsylvania Masonic Foundation for the Prevention of Drug and Alcohol Abuse Among Children is helping to combat the tragedy of adolescent substance abuse.
We as Masons have an opportunity to do something about the drug and alcohol abuse problem that exists today. We've been able to train teachers in over 500 school districts in Pennsylvania to look for these kind of problems with children and to refer them to core members so children can get help.
The range and quality of the Masonic charities exemplify the values of a fraternity founded in benevolence, a fraternity which through the centuries has succeeded in turning a philosophy of brotherhood into compassionate action.
To me, the remarkable thing about the Fraternity of Free and Accepted Masons is that for all the good that has been done, there is a strong sense that more can be accomplished. There's that incredible commitment to do more, and in doing more, to do it more perfectly.
At Gettysburg, the Masonic commitment to brotherhood takes on new meaning as the Masonic Fraternity of Pennsylvania celebrates the bonds of friendship which united its brethren during the most divisive period in our nation's history.
This memorial we unveil here today depicts and signifies a true example of a Masonic landmark, that bond of brotherhood which exists among Freemasons wheresoever dispersed on the earth.
Today, the Friend to Friend Masonic Memorial Monument at Gettysburg stands as a symbol of the bonds of brotherhood, a symbol that will remind generations to come of the enduring strength of friendship and the remarkable power of compassion. Over a century ago, here at Gettysburg, one American helped heal the soul of a divided nation. His message of brotherhood still echoes on this hallowed ground.
Let us neither express nor cherish any harsh feelings towards any citizen who by his vote has differed with us. Let us at all times remember that all Americans are brothers of a common country and should dwell together in the bonds of fraternal feeling.
I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. If you have any questions, you can call me at 378-3240 or write to me at Setauket Lodge, Post Office Box 132, East Bridgewater, Massachusetts, 02333.
And if you write us, we will read and comment on the air regarding some of your most interesting letters.
Video is about the Massachusetts Masonic Child Identification Program, CHIP.
Hello, I'm Fran Foster, past master of Setauket Lodge. Welcome to our program of what it means to be a Mason. I have with me today the District Deputy for the Brockton 29th Masonic District, Richard T. Austin, and David Hart, the dental advocate for the Mass Dental Association. Today we're going to be talking about the Child Identification Program. You've seen some circulars around. It says CHIP. This is the most comprehensive program in the world. Does anybody know where it really started, the CHIP program?
Well, I'm sure someone knows, but in Massachusetts here, there was a gentleman by the name of Stafford Sheehan who saw it in another state that it was running and brought it into the state of Mass somewhere around 96, 97.
All right, this will be our 4th year doing it.
Correct.
And we've expanded on it each year, and this year we'll be having the Mass Dental Association working with us, taking tooth prints. Can you explain to our audience something of what the tooth print involves?
Sure. The Massachusetts Dental Society came on board basically because there's so many children nowadays that have perfect teeth due to the advent of fluorides, also with the dental sealants that so many children have, and dental education. There's so many children that literally cavity-free, filling-free, so therefore they're also dental record-free. So in terms of identification, it's much more difficult to identify children than it was 20 years ago. So this thermoplastic wafer was developed to be able to identify children very easily and simply. No two teeth in the world are exactly alike, just like fingerprints. So even identical twins have different tooth prints. And it marks the relationship of the upper teeth to the lower teeth and the width of the jaw. So it's a very exacting replica of what the dentition really is. What the real coup with this program is that we learned recently from the FBI trainer from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children down at National Headquarters is that because we take this tooth print and the saliva on the tooth print when we remove it from a child's mouth, that the saliva also is a legitimate DNA sample. And on top of that, the FBI dogs are now trained to scent trace salivary proteins. So all of a sudden, this tooth print is not only an ID, but it's a scent tracer and it's a DNA sample. When we actually take it, we warm this thermoplastic material up to about 140 degrees, which is kind of warm, but it would not burn any child, and they simply bite into it. After that, we place it in a Ziploc bag and seal it. It's very important that it remains sealed. That way the DNA sample is preserved and also the salivary proteins were preserved. So after it's placed in the bag, we don't want any child playing with it or the parents to touch it. That way it preserves the integrity of the actual sample. So we're very excited about this. Unfortunately, there's over 4,000 Americans right now as we speak that have not been identified, believe it or not, and there's over 30 unsolved cases right here in Massachusetts, which is pretty stunning. So this is the Mass Dental Society's answer to come forward and come to the plate and try to protect our children. The Mass Dental Society has many times, with different programs, come into the community to help out less fortunate and help out with Dental Health Month activities to try to do the very best for the citizens of Massachusetts.
So it's very important that this to be done then for the protection of the children throughout the state.
Absolutely. We hope to do every child in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and this will give maximum peace of mind and the best chance for recovery for a parent.
Now, this is sponsored by the Grand Lodge of Masons in Massachusetts, and the Prince Hall Masons also.
Correct. And it's also in cooperation with the Massachusetts Dental Society, which has been very supportive, as well as the Mass Crime Prevention Officers Association. Part of this very significant program is to have the children fingerprinted. And most people know about fingerprints and how accurate and unique fingerprints are. No two fingerprints in the world are exactly alike, and just the same as in identical twins. So just like tooth prints, fingerprints are very unique and very diagnostic as far as actually identifying a child.
Now, Rick, the first year you did it, we had, I think we processed over 2,100 children. Last year we processed 1,500 through the tapes. Is there any cost to this?
Yeah, yes, there is. We started doing around 600. The program started years ago as strictly videotaping children. And as you well know, throughout Massachusetts and the country, local law enforcement officers were taking snapshots of kids and fingerprinting them. And what was different with this program and why we bought into it through Grand Lodge was the fact that we're catching children on tape. So we see their mannerisms. They can take computer enhancements of these children on the tapes and as they get older. And what we wanted to do is, this is a community service project for Masons to get our name out in the community. And so we decided that we didn't want anybody paying for this service whatsoever. So originally we just had the videotape, and then we went into the fingerprints, and now we've gone on to the dental impressions. The total cost per child to us for just the supplies is around $2.50, but it goes well beyond that. In the last 3 years that we've been running this, our local district, which is made up of the 8 lodges that you know, have raised over $12,000 to run this program, and we've done over 5,000 kids in that 3-year period. So it does cost money, it does cost a lot, and the money is coming out of men such as us sitting here in this room, businesses, things like that.
Yeah, I know I have written several letters to businesses in the area and gotten many generous donations from those businesses for the program. But my point is, the whole thing doesn't cost the parent a dime.
Correct. We won't, as I said before, we will not accept money. Even if they tried to give us money, this is our way of providing back to the community.
Excellent, excellent.
Another point I'd also like to bring out with the dental impression is some of the parents, as they've come through the program, they've got younger kids and they feel, well, you know, we'll get it done this year, and then they're throwing these dental impressions out. I'm not a dentist, but Dr. Hart will tell you that the tooth print is like a fingerprint, and as long as they have one of their permanent teeth, this goes for the rest of their life. Am I correct?
That's correct. That's correct. At age 2, children have 20 baby teeth. And some of those baby teeth will last until they're age 12. So even a child age 2, that tooth print would be diagnostic for 10 years until they're age 12. If a child is age 6, they have their 6-year molar, which is their first permanent molar tooth, and that should last the rest of their lifetime. So that's a critical tooth as far as the development of a child. We certainly recommend a child age 6 to have the 6-year molar taken around age 6 or 7. We recommend in general to have the tooth print taken every 3 years. And that's a good stage because there are changes in the teeth, but there's certain teeth that will last a lifetime or a good amount of time. So that's important to have them taken on a regular basis. I have actually done a tooth print on a child 11 months old with 1 tooth. And I can't explain to you how reassuring that was to the parent to know that that child would be able to be identified for the next 6 years until that tooth fell out.
Could you hold it up? So they can...
Once again, that's what a tooth print looks like. Just like fingerprints, every tooth has nooks and crannies, very unique to every individual, so that those nooks and crannies are diagnostic. And with modern technology, computer CAD-CAM photo cameras can be zoomed in, and this data could actually be transferred via computer to other parts of the country if necessary to make a positive ID on a child. Our state forensic dentist was at the Yankee Dental Congress in Boston this year and was very, very impressed with this. She does over 100 identifications in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts every year here in Massachusetts. And so many times it's the dental records that are critically, critically important. Another feature about the tooth print, which a lot of people don't want to think about, but trauma cases or burn victims. Certainly at the Shrines Burn Hospitals, many children sometimes are burned over 90% of their body, and we can save them at the Shrines Burns Hospital, and many times they can get a child that they don't know who they're treating because they're disfigured, they don't have fingerprints, but they would have tooth prints. Because the teeth are on the inside of the mouth and protected, even up to 3,000 degrees, the teeth can withstand that type of temperature. So it's a very, very powerful. The teeth are the most durable part of the human anatomy, too, and that's important as far as diagnostic quality.
Now, who is eligible? What are the requirements to have this particular chip video and tooth print done? The age groups are from, what, 2 to 18, I think it is?
Age 18 and younger.
18 and younger,
18
okay.
and younger, absolutely free. No files are kept on copy by the Masons, the Dental Society, or law enforcement.
Everything that is taken is given right to the parent.
Right to
so
the
they
parent.
are the sole custodian of whatever happens.
Absolutely.
It's like an insurance policy. You sell insurance, you know. You hope you never have to use it. But if the need is there, you've got the equipment to do the job.
Well, I think what we had seen is, you know, I had my kids, they all have it. It gives a parent, you know, that comfort that if something does happen, and we've heard stories of, a prime example was a family went on vacation to Disney World, and they brought these tapes along just in case one of their children got lost, that they could pass these tapes on to the security so they weren't looking at trying to describe what their child was like. And there was a case that this did happen. I don't know whether it was on Disney World, but it did happen. And they found the child right away. The security was able to look at the kids, and they found them right away. So, you know, there is some comfort there. I would also like to mention that on the videotapes, we ask that they come back every year, and the videotapes that we give them are a 15-minute videotape. And so if the parent can come back the next year, this is going to be our 4th year at the Westgate Mall that we're running them, that the parents can bring back the tape. We now set the tape further along, and you can now see a natural progression of the child, which again helps. Also, these child identification programs are being run throughout the state. At this point, right now in Massachusetts, since it began, what is it?
54,000.
Yeah, 54,000 children that we have videotaped and done a dental impression and fingerprinted.
That's quite an impressive figure. So at least we know we've got 54,000 of them captured on tape.
It's unfortunate that we have to do it,
Yes.
but in this day and age, it's nice that there is something out there, and as it was said originally, it is the most comprehensive. In the fact that, you know, we've caught every avenue, you know, the fingerprints, the teeth, and the videotape.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's a very nice program. Now, those that have access to computers, if you're interested in checking it out, there's a website out there called mychip.org, www.mychip.org. That's Massachusetts Youth Child Identification Program. That'll give you the full breakdown of what it is, what it accomplishes, and who sponsors it.
And I also think it tells you where other of these programs are being run.
Yes, there is a schedule on there.
Correct.
Too. Yes.
So if, you know, over the Westgate Mall, when we're running it in April, if that's not convenient, there are many other locations.
When did you say we were running it?
April 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd over the Westgate Mall.
That's Easter school vacation week.
Correct.
Last year, I think we did it on a Sunday, but because Easter is on Sunday this year, or the last day of the vacation, we chose not to do it on Sunday. So it's Wednesday through Saturday. And from the hours are from 10...
when the mall opens, around 10 till 9 at night.
So 10 in the morning till 9 at night.
Correct.
And we'll take any and all who come along.
Correct. And I think this year we're going to have some, we usually try to have entertainment there. That's the other thing that should be explained, that this program does not take a long time. It's probably about, from the point that we register to the point that they're done, is probably about 4 or 5 minutes. And if there's a family, that's 4 or 5 minutes per child, but it's well worth the time. And we'll have some clowns there from the Shrine organization, and the police are bringing in some dogs, doing a demonstration with the dogs. So there'll be entertainment there to keep the kids happy running along. And
good. You spoke of the Shrine a moment ago. My wife and I were out looking at a trailer the other day, and I come across a person who had a child that was helped by the Shrine. He sat there in that trailer crying, just talking about it, how the Shrine has helped him out. And the audience out there, the people don't know that every Shriner is a Mason first.
Correct.
It was just very thrilling. And he taught us how to make the balloon animals, too.
And there's another organization that they don't accept money.
Right.
Anybody who goes in there and is treated for burns, it's 100% paid for by the
well, that's what he said. His biggest expense was parking fees.
That's great.
Yeah. And he was thrilled. And sat there telling about it, and tears coming to his eyes.
Well, you know, we're probably doing it on a selfish basis because it makes you feel real good going home, yes. Listening to the parents, seeing the kids, seeing these smiling faces, and they have fun when this is done. I think the other thing that really should be mentioned, because I'm sure people are thinking a lot of questions, on the dental end, we have nothing but dentists there or dental hygienists. You know, they're not insurance men sitting there trying to stick things in kids' mouths.
So it's all professional people.
Exactly, and so if a tooth happened to fall out while they're doing this or any problems arose, which really it isn't, the wafer is heated in hot water, you know, it's kind of lukewarm water, so nothing gets burned. And, you know, the kids being on videotape, having their fingerprints, usually the DARE officers are there or some sort of police officers. The kids have fun sitting there, and we try to make it an enjoyable thing. There's nothing that hurts any of the kids in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, well, the thing that we ought to stress is that, you know, they stand in front of a height chart, so that it captures their height, captures their mannerisms, their speech, and their nervousness. You know, you get all that on tape. And then through computer progression, you can progress and see what would be like 5 or 10 years from that point.
Correct.
So it's very important in identifying children or whoever.
Correct.
One other thing I'd like to add is the difference between the video and a still photo. When a still photo, you get one shot, and some parents think they have great photos, but usually they don't. It could be a beaming smile, but if a child's abducted, they're not going to be smiling. So during the course of asking 15, 20 different questions, you're going to see a whole lot of range of emotions and expressions and the way kids blink and talk. And these are all important clues in trying to find a child. On top of that, we ask very specific questions during this program that have actually led to the recovery of children that would have not been recovered alive. One comes to mind where a child was asked, what do you do after school, which is a typical question we ask. And one child usually walked home from school, and mom usually got home 5 minutes after the child, and the mother had just been to one of the programs. And in this particular incident, the child didn't come home. When we asked that particular question, the child said, I walk home from school, and on the way home I pass a strip mall. Sometimes I duck into the video arcade. Mommy doesn't like me to do that, but I'm real good at Pac-Man, and my name's number 2 on the machine, and I'm trying to become the champ on the machine. That became the clue for the police. When the mother brought it to the police, they went straight to the video arcade. They did the detective work. They actually apprehended a known sex offender in the nick of time. And this is a type of situation that child wouldn't have been recovered alive had it not been for the videotape and a quick response by the police doing the detective work. So once again, this is where actual answers and looking for a child, and other questions we ask is where the child likes to be when they're by themselves and want to be alone. Some kids toddle off in real strange places or behind a rock pile, and it's not just an abduction. Sometimes a child in the winter could go out to play in a special hiding place, break a leg, and it's not being abducted, it's hypothermic reactions that all of a sudden could be the big threat for a child like that. So it actually gives places for the police and authorities to find children. So
then the questions we ask do have an impact on the program.
Actually, recovery. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent.
Some of the questions have come out of the state police.
Okay.
And there have been some questions that have come out of psychologists. And this is how the original questions were arrived at. And the questions are important. But just as important is the mannerism of the child. You know, whether there's a nervous twitch, whether there is a birthmark, we ask. You know, if they have a birthmark on their arm, we can focus right in on that, let them see it. Things like that. So, I mean, we're just hitting every angle of how to identify these kids if, God forbid, you know, the case.
We hope it never has to be used.
Correct.
But I would urge all and every parent who is watching this show to come up to Westgate Mall during the Easter School Vacation Week and have this done for their children. And you have grandparents and guardians come also.
Correct, and that's what happens. And again, the one thing I want to focus on, because sometimes people, they're a little frightened to come over to us because they think we're after something. They think we want to charge for this program. They feel, you know, we might sell a list that we get. And as was said earlier, we don't do any of that. If you wanted to give us money, we will not take it. Everything, 100%, goes right back to you. You know, someone had brought up the point, you know, there are double tapes of my child. No, there isn't. You're standing right with your child. That's the other important thing. You're with your child the entire time. If you come as a family, we put the whole family right there, right in the line. Mom or dad usually is standing on one side of the child, and on certain ages, we actually have the children sitting in the lap of the parent, and we're asking the parents the questions. And again, what we're just trying to do is see the mannerisms of the child and things like that. But there is no cost to it. There is no ulterior motive other than trying to help the kids and to get our name as Masons out there. And that's the bottom line.
No, this is our way of saying here we are, and this is what we're doing.
Correct.
For the community.
Correct.
To help you out.
Correct.
Excellent.
Now, you've worked.
Yes, I've worked several of them. I'll be working this one.
Yeah. And the one that we're running to show you, we have 8 districts. 8 lodges in this district. We run such a long period of time that on just like a camera crew, someone asking the questions, the registrar and everything, for a 4-day period, we need close to 200 volunteers. That doesn't include the dentists that bring their own volunteers in. We'll have the Rainbow Girls, the DMLA. We at times, you know, people come up to us and ask, can I help? This is quite an undertaking. There are a lot of people who are involved in this. And we have to, as a whole, get as much help as we can to deal with this.
You say the Rainbow and DMLA are going to be involved. I spoke with the district deputy for the 28th Masonic District, and he said he would go down to Middleborough to pick up some DMLA and Rainbow.
Correct.
The police departments, do you know what police departments are involved in this?
We have sent letters out to all the police departments in the area. These CHIP programs, it's not only district, local lodges run the CHIPS program. This happens to be one that we're running for our district, and the district is from Bridgewater all the way up to Abington, Brockton, Whitman, Hanson. And we have contacted all the schools in those towns. Flyers are going home in all those schools. We send out over 60,000 flyers, and we also have contacted all the police in those towns. We also have the Sheriff's Department that is coming on board that helps with us. So again, it's not Masons or, again, insurance men sitting out there trying to fingerprint the children. We have professionals that know how to fingerprint these children doing the job. So we're getting help from all aspects of society.
And it takes a lot of help to do something like
this. Correct. For the size program that we run, it takes us almost a year to get prepared for this. And what we're trying to do is be consistent in the fact that we've run it at the Westgate Mall continuously so people know they can come back. We've run it Easter vacation. So people know we're going to be there. They can bring those tapes back. They can do their kids. And again, there's a prime example that the Westgate Mall has donated all the facilities to us. They've been very good to us, as well as local businesses donating money to get this running.
Yeah, they've helped us out tremendously. And Media One has helped us out quite a bit, too, because they let us take the cameras.
Correct.
To do the job with.
Correct. We run about 6 cameras, and we also, in running those cameras, we need standby cameras in case those break. And really, to run the program correctly for each camera, we need about 10 people. And that's per shift, because it gets tiring hanging over these cameras for 4 hours. And then ask the questions for 4 hours, see what happens to your voice.
Yes, I know. I've been there, done that.
Another aspect I'd like to add is that we have 450 dentists from the Massachusetts Dental Society on the South Shore. In addition, we have hygienists and assistants, both, which help out with the program. And some of the other programs, they're cross-trained, where they'll actually help out register and ask questions as well. So it really is a community event with Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts.
Correct.
At some different events where different people from the community can really chip in and make it a family and a community type event, which is wonderful.
Well, hopefully I can get this tape up to Brockton and Bridgewater to include those towns, and we can get some coverage and get some of the parents to come up and see us.
Correct.
I mean, this is a very important thing for them to do, and to protect the children.
Correct. And also, we would like to say that if anybody wants one of these programs run, to please call Grand Lodge. There's an 800 number.
1-800-882-1020.
There you go.
I know it by heart.
And, you know, if someone wants to run it in their schools, and, you know, if the Boy Scouts want to run it, we're more than willing to come out and try to get a successful CHIP program going.
Oh, yes, we can help out, because we've had the practice doing it. But this is, it'll be our 4th year, and we've done quite a few of them.
Right.
So we can train or do or whatever.
Correct.
When's the date again?
April 19th through the 22nd, from 10 in the morning till 9 at night.
Correct.
Come on up and see us.
Correct. Be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. We always have fun doing it. And, of course, there's going to be clowns there, as you said, the Shriners clowns, and the police dogs with the demonstrations. So there'll be things to do.
How many of the dental impressions have been done at this point? Because this is fairly new on the...
About 4,000 to date. I mean, this is brand new technology, which is exciting, so we expect that just to take off now.
And no problems with those 4,000?
None, not a one.
Great.
Of all the kids which typically have wiggly teeth, we haven't lost one baby tooth yet.
Good, good. I see our time is just about up. I thank you for watching. Rick, thank you for being on the show.
And I thank you for having us here.
Yeah. Dave?
Thank you again.
Thank you. And I urge all and every parent to come up to Westgate Mall from the 19th to the 22nd of April, from 10 in the morning till 9 at night, and get the chip videos done for your children. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.
That's all for now.
This is Mason Pratt.
And Frederick L. Milliken.
Parting on the Square.
Potts.